This is the BLACK+DECKER small portable washer. I've had this for a bit now, and a few people asked me about it, so here's my take. What made me try this in the first place was simple. I got tired of shared laundry rooms, waiting on machines, carrying clothes around, and not really knowing how clean those machines were. I wanted something small enough to work in an apartment, but still useful enough that I wouldn't feel like I was washing 2 shirts at a time. After using this for a while, I can say it does help a lot, but it also comes with a few things you need to know before buying it. The size is probably the main reason most people look at this washer. It's compact, but it's not tiny once you actually have it in the room. It still takes up space, and it has some weight to it. I can move it, but I wouldn't call it light. The built-in wheels help on hard floors, but if you have rugs, door edges, or a tighter layout, moving it around all the time can get old pretty fast. If you plan to store it away after every wash, that's something to think about. The setup was easier than I expected, but it wasn't completely effortless. The hoses and faucet connection were pretty straightforward once I got the right fit. That part matters, because not every sink works the same. If your faucet has an unusual shape, or one of those pull-out sprayer heads, you may need a separate adapter. That was one of my concerns before using it, and I think it's still one of the biggest things to check before buying. If your sink connection is simple, setup is not a big deal. If not, it can turn into trial and error. In daily use, this washer has been more useful than I expected. I mostly use it for regular clothes, socks, shirts, workout stuff, sleepwear, towels, and smaller loads that I don't want piling up. For that kind of use, it works well. I don't have to wait until I have a huge load. I can just wash what I need when I need to. That alone has made laundry feel less annoying. The washing performance is solid. Clothes come out clean. I noticed that even with sweaty gym clothes and everyday stuff, it does a good job as long as I don't overload it. That part is important. This is one of those machines where load size really changes the experience. If I keep the load reasonable, it washes well and spins well. If I try to push too much in there, the wash action is weaker, and the machine can get unbalanced. The spin cycle is probably one of the things I appreciate most. Clothes come out much less wet than I expected from a portable washer. That makes a big difference if you air dry your clothes like I do. Shirts and lighter items dry pretty fast after a cycle in this. Towels still take longer, obviously, but they're not dripping wet when they come out. Noise was another thing I worried about. The wash part is pretty manageable. I can definitely hear it, but it's not the kind of sound that feels out of control. The spin cycle is louder and more noticeable. Not horrible, but you know it's happening. If the load is off balance, the sound gets worse, and that's usually my sign to stop it and move things around. That brings me to one of the downsides. This washer really does not like unbalanced loads. If I throw in one heavy towel with a couple of lighter things, or if something bunches up on one side, it can start thumping or throw an error. I've gotten used to that, so now I load it more carefully. Once I learned what it likes, it became less of a problem, but there is a learning curve. It's not the kind of machine where you just dump anything in and walk away every single time. Capacity is decent for 1 person or maybe 2 people doing smaller, frequent loads. I wouldn't buy this expecting it to replace a full-size washer for a bigger household. It handles normal clothes well. It can do towels, but I keep those loads lighter. Bed sheets are possible depending on the size, but thick blankets and bulky comforters are where I'd stop. I've seen some portable washers that feel more like a backup option than a real washer. This one feels more usable than that, but it still has limits, and I think it's better to be honest about that. Compared to some smaller portable washers I've tried before, this one feels more stable and easier to trust once it's leveled properly. It also feels less rough on clothes than some older agitator-style machines. I like that there's no big center post taking up space. It makes loading easier, and I've had fewer issues with clothes getting twisted up. At the same time, a full-size machine is still easier if you have a lot of laundry or bigger items. This one makes the most sense when space is the bigger problem. One thing I noticed over time is that maintenance matters more than I expected. I clean the lint filter often, and I leave the lid open for a while after washes so moisture doesn't sit inside. If I forget and close it up right away, it can start to smell musty. I also check the hoses now and then and make sure the drain hose is secure, because the water comes out with enough force that I don't want that slipping out of the sink. I also learned pretty quickly not to use too much detergent. A little goes a long way here. If I use too much, I end up with extra suds and more hassle than I need. Liquid detergent has worked better for me than pods, especially on colder washes. If you're wondering who this is actually for, I think it makes sense for someone in an apartment, dorm-style setup, small home, RV, or any place where a regular washer isn't practical. I also think it makes sense if you're just tired of shared laundry and want more control over when you wash your clothes. If you do huge family loads, heavy bedding, or want something you never have to think about, this probably isn't the right fit. So my honest take is that I like it, and I still use it regularly. It saves me time, it keeps me from dealing with shared machines, and it handles everyday laundry well if I stay within its limits. The main trade-offs are the weight, the faucet setup, and the fact that you need to pay attention to load balance. If those things don't sound like a deal breaker, I think it's a practical option. I'll leave the details about the BLACK+DECKER small portable washer in the comments for you to check out. See you in the next video.